started my career almost 2 decades ago with a fascinating company which was India's largest passenger vehicle manufacturer, Maruti Suzuki. And I was amazed as a youngster to see thousands of processes, small actions, departments, divisions trying to come together so well aligned, trying to deliver the value to the customer. But what was equally interesting for me was to observe that many of the other competitors were not able to do that in spite of having almost a similar list of ingredients. I'm a professionally trained chartered accountant, CFA, and financial risk manager, which enables me to connect the dots better and faster than a layperson. So when the capability meets the interest, that sort of increases the engagement level. So that kind of chose the path for me, and I decided to become a consultant and a trainer. Well, finance, pretty much like marketing, HR, is one of the core functions of every business. What finance does is to enable the quantification of the pros and cons of any decision that the business would want to take, even when the decision is not really in the domain of finance. Let me take an example. So if one of the HR heads comes to the CEO and say that, hey, let's automate a production line. Now, this looks to be an HR related decision, but it will have a lot of implications in terms of where will the money come from, what will be the ultimate benefit and saving in terms of cost. So all of those tabulations and analysis and playing with the numbers, basically to objectively express the quantification of the impact, that's what finance does for the business. Finance is not really a doing job, it's a thought process. It is the way a business would think about the future, the way the business would plan about the future. And you would have also many times see some overlaps with economics. You're absolutely right. Finance is one of the babies of the mother economics. It is the logical and numerical interpretation of the principles of economics and business. I totally love my job, and that makes me do some very interesting things. So what I've done for my B School students is to create a series of pre-watch videos spread across the entire course outline. You see, MBA is a course where there is a lot of heterogeneity in the studentship, meaning there would be an engineer sitting who is a champion of mathematics and number crunching, but besides him or her, there would be a student from the liberal arts or a sociology background, both trying to learn the same concept from the same professor at the same time. This makes training and teaching very difficult because the averages are difficult to draw. So what I did is to shift the boring 15-minute introductory monologue from every topic onto a video, and I've uploaded it onto the YouTube. Now, every student mandatorily has to watch those basic introduction and the concepts before entering the room. And imagine the class suddenly erupts with excitement and discussion and point of views the moment we start with any case, any numerical, any recent happenings, any trend, which means the engagement level becomes very, very high. It's the methodology of co-curating the content rather than telling them to do something. The second thing that I think it's worth mentioning is to create and convert the classroom into a very safe playground. There is nothing to be shy of, there's nothing to feel afraid of. So what we generally do is there is a lot of case activities, numericals, questions that the students have to take while they are in the class, and we convert them into smaller groups. So you can imagine a student may not feel safe to speak up their point of view in front of 60 students, but they will feel very safe to do the same thing within a very small cohort like 6 to 7 members whom they know personally. So with that, everybody gets a chance to open up, and perhaps from that 5 to 6 neighborhood, they tomorrow might get confidence to speak their point of view in front of the whole world. So that way, the class becomes very, very engaging, and it's a very safe playground for the students to engage into the discussion. I am not the first person, I'm sure you would have heard, saying that change is the only constant. You would also appreciate that the speed of change is phenomenal. Every time, every industry, any sector that you pick, the reason could be different. In some cases, it could be changing consumer preferences. In some cases, it could be an ESG concern. In some cases, it could be a climate change or a problem related to that, or a technological disruption. MBA is one course which makes you aptly ready to handle such a change. Well, you have to appreciate the fact that you cannot reverse the change, you cannot slow the change. What you can at best do is to understand the change and create a sweet spot for yourself. This is what MBA does. After this course, it's a rigorous 12-month hands-on blended with some academic plus some practical training, which will create a lot of flexibility zone within you where your learnings can be put to practical use and you can accommodate what your team members, whether it's your junior or a senior, is doing. So I would imagine MBA is a course which has ample width in terms of the curriculum and adequate depth to equip you with right knowledge. I'm a complete movie buff, totally addicted to all OTT platforms, some of the vices that I thoroughly enjoy. Besides, swimming is something that I love. Whenever I'm underwater, it's a completely different world for me. I find it very, very therapeutic. It's my personal me time. Just by talking about it, I'm feeling very happy. So you can imagine. Well, finance has three broad verticals: public finance, what and how societies should function; personal finance, how an individual should manage the money; and the third, corporate finance, which deals with the decisions to be taken by the companies and firms, which are generally for profit. Within this corporate finance are decisions, very critical ones, such as where will the money come from? So there is a classic debate between should I borrow the money as debt or should I raise the money from the owners? So it's a debt versus equity and the capital structure debate. The second important decision is once the money is raised, how should I put it? There are multiple opportunities that I have. Which one should I pick up first? So it involves a lot of forecasting, analysis, mathematics, and all those stuff. And the third equally important decision, and sometimes we feel it's more important than the other two, is the gratification decision. If your funding and investment decisions are done well, how would you gratify the owners? Should you give out some money out of the profits of the current year, or should you continue to reinvest them and make the firm grow faster? So these are the three pillars: investing, financing, and dividend decision, on which the whole discipline of corporate finance is established. And then we look at the nuances around all three of them. So to my mind, in order to understand the business well, corporate finance gives you the right lens where the money is the common factor and it uncovers the whole decision making, risk management, valuation, communication, and prepares the students for amazing career opportunities for business management. If you observe closely, the business world is full of stories, very fascinating stories. Some of them, such as the introductory pricing done by Jio, making everybody addicted to a telecom and a communication network. As a result of that, some of the competitors like a Vodafone and an Idea could not survive, but at the same time, one of the other competitors, Airtel, came out much brighter, leaner, thinner. So you see, somebody with finance knowledge, with some nut and bolts of understanding business, will be able to read such stories and will be able to take out much more from these. That's what corporate finance will enable you to do that as part of the MBA. Absolutely relevant. If you look around yourself, there are geopolitical problems, technological disruptions, and political interventions. All the stakeholders, be it suppliers, customers, employees, governments, regulators, are becoming very, very demanding. Markets, on the other hand, are becoming very, very competitive. So you see the businesses and the profitability of those are getting squeezed from all points. This is where you need optimization of every rupee that the business have. That's where the principles of financial management and corporate finance come very, very handy. So I believe that anybody with right knowledge of corporate finance, even while they are not working in the finance domain or the department of the firm, will be able to use the resources of the firm much better and position the firm into the higher orbit of growth. Well, out of my 2 decades of experience, I can surely say that flexibility is something that every company, every firm is looking for in their employees. The reality is, even those employers don't know what will be the business model for them after 3 years. So to give a defined and a very stringent KRA based profile to any employee is just not possible for them. So what they are looking for is somebody who is interested in whatever the firm wants him or her to do. So the openness to listening to new ideas, openness to change, openness to do something new every day, the flexibility zone is what the companies are looking forward to. The second and equally important point is the strength of the fundamentals. When we meet different employers in different capacities, we hear that students these days can throw a lot of jargons. They are talking through the hat. They don't know the basic fundamentals of anything. So tomorrow, if the application changes, for example, it's only the strength of the fundamentals that will be relevant to get a good handle on those new applications. And like I said, the speed of change is phenomenally high. So the employers are not looking for somebody who can throw some random numbers, be very abstract, come out very fancy, but they're looking at somebody who can understand the fundamentals and then connect the dots and capture the application, whatever be the case in that case. If you look around yourself, there are multiple problems facing the businesses. There is geopolitical challenges, there are political interventions, there are technological disruptions, making the whole stakeholder ecosystem very demanding. The businesses and its profitability are getting squeezed from all angles. This is a point where corporate finance and understanding of money management can help. The principles of financial management can enable any business manager evaluate the benefit and cost of any decision much more objectively. Not only that, the communication of those pros and cons can happen much more objectively. The key decisions of every business, such as where the money is going to come from, where will it getting spent, and how would you gratify the investors, will become all the more important in the eyes of adversity that the businesses are facing. So to my mind, every business manager must have basic knowledge of corporate finance to be able to make sure that the resources of the firm are utilized very well. As an advice, there is a long list of pointers that anybody can throw at. Let me bring up 3 most important pieces that I think are super critical for a business manager. The first is to have a lot of trust and patience in the system. One can imagine that it is very difficult to bring about any change, but to bring about a change in a human behavior is all the more difficult. So as a learner of an MBA program, one needs to keep a lot of trust in the pedagogy, in the system, the program, its curriculum, which has been curated by best of the best and by the global best practices that exist today. But it needs a lot of commitment from a student's point of view as well. The survival skills, the fighting attitude, the never give up attitude is something that the system is expecting a student to bring on the table. The second thing that we want the students to come up is with a lot of curiosity and imagination. It's only the curious who will learn. There are so many new things happening, starting with big data, then ESG, now generative AI, and you never know by the time you're going to cross your convocation, how many new things would have come up. Always be open to learning. The third and the last from my side is going to be to fully belong to the program once you have joined it. Many times we see a lot of learners, full-time learners, still having some kind of a hook from their previous life. MBA is something which is absolutely a reimagination of the career and life. Doesn't matter what you were before, but henceforth you will be known as a business manager. The last but not the least is to fully belong to the program once you're here. There are going to be a lot of stress points, the points where you will question your candidature. That's the point where you need to continue to have the perseverance and have the trust in the system. Many times we see people only present physically, but mentally they're not putting their 100%. MBA is going to be a tough nut to crack. Greater the toughness, greater the reward. So therefore, as my final submission, I would thoroughly request you to have full 100% of your presence of mind, all your skills put to use, and fully belong to the program once you join.